Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to our last ever race for the Porsche 992.1 GT3 Cup car in the iRacing official Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, as brought to you on the one and only premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right folks, we're here today not just for our regular Strength for Field broadcast. That of course was all the way back on Wednesday last week. Indeed, what a wonderful Wednesday it was on the 3rd of December where we saw our drivers do battle here at Snetterton. But as we promised, we are here tonight for the last ever official race session featuring the current generation of the Porsche Cup car, and after this race, that's it. There'll be no more racing in the Porsche 992.1, at least in official races, because when we make our way into the 2026 Season 1 campaign, we'll be seeing the arrival of the Porsche 992.2 generation Cup car. So therefore, this is an emotional send-off here at Snetterton, and we invite you to come join us live from circuit side as we cover all the racing action from the top split of the 23:45 Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC session here at the Snetterton circuit. And goodness me, what a race we've got ahead of us. And you're tuning in on YouTube at the moment at youtube.com and search for TX141TX, alternative Paul Walsh, and you can be joining many of the rank and file tuning in tonight. None other, of course, Fabian HD, who's going to be on the grid. That's Fabian Ming, and we're very happy to see him on the grid. Also, we do have there none other, of course, of Nick DeBeck tuning in as well, a big long-time fan of the Porsche 992.1 Cup car. But do say hi, don't be shy, because the only biting you'll see here today is biting on the brakes each and every step of the way. And in the commentary booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now, as we come into this, of course, a quick reminder of our host circuit. It is none other than the Snetterton 200 circuit, 200 in its layout and 2 miles in its length, located in the village of Snetterton in the county of Norfolk in England, the United Kingdom. A highly flat circuit, very little elevation change, but when it lacks an elevation change, it makes up for with none other than tight corner sequences, 2 extended straights, and we're married together, plenty of laps to race around here, 22 in total. And what a circuit is to bring things to a close. A quick reminder of the rules, of course, before we do go racing, and a huge thank you to iRacing, of course, for that brilliant track map that comes with the fantastic simulator. This is an open setup variant of the series, where drivers bring their setups to each and every race. The grid shall be set via a closed qualifying session, which is currently underway, and we'll come to that very shortly, and it will commence via a standing start, as is the tradition of Porsche Cup racing. Drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points, and should they get to 25, they will be disqualified. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything in between. We're all here for the racing, and let's see what's going on right now in this final practice and qualifying session. And as we can see, we've got many a regular face out there. We've also got some new faces on the grid today, given how late it is here in the United Kingdom for this broadcast. Indeed, if I do sound a little bit tired, ladies and gentlemen, I apologise in advance because it is getting close to midnight here. But still, we could not let the Porsche Cup car go away. A big send-off here to the 992.1. And as we do see, Carl McGuinness carrying on his way there. He's already completed his 2 flying laps, but he's decided to go for even more here because he can't get enough of the car. Well, we've got some other drivers out there, including none other than Pole Sim Racing's Joey Triciano, who has not got a valid lap on the board, and he's going to be starting from the very back of the field, and we've got several drivers looking to do the same, including Hayden Bramley by the looks of things here, albeit he is coming to the end of a 3rd flying lap, and he's got a black flag there, so he's going to be doing things from the back. Quite a few drivers, I think, opt in here to start from the very back of the field, and therefore make this as much a last to first challenge as it is going to be about just having fun out of the circuit. We've got plenty of new names, as we do see Balti Silva jump all the way up to 5th place. Well done to him in the Rexy machine to moving his way up there. And we've also got a couple of other newcomers yet to get a lap on the board, including none other than Aykut Kutlauter as he makes his way towards that timeline. And also we have Rene Mombreno, who has yet to get a lap on the board. I think Mombreno has still got a lap available to him, as we do see Kutlauter come across that line. It doesn't set a valid time, and it is now just to this man, Rene Mombreno, who we're waiting to see whether he can get a valid lap on the board and pull off what could be a little bit of steal in this qualifying order. But we do say hello there to a few more of you in the YouTube chat, including Chuki George, who says an absolutely brilliant circuit is Snetterton 200, and also there to Michael SK09, who says, yep, no traction control and no ABS will be missed, because do, of course, keep in mind the Porsche 992.2 car will see the introduction of both of those electronic systems as part of the alignment to the Porsche Super Cup regulations, which are being updated for 2026, and that will change the behaviour of the car, but it'll be a new beast for everybody to conquer as of the new calendar year of iRacing. As Membreno heads towards the timing line, and indeed he's the only driver out there at the moment who is on a valid qualifying lap. Well, it does look as though Elias Finoli is going to be on pole position as Membreno crosses the timing line, and where does he go? He goes 17th there for 1 minute 10.151. Now, the minute and a half left to go. The strength of field for tonight is 3,780. It's a relatively high strength of field, albeit not the highest we've seen in our strength of field broadcast. We have been pushing upwards to the best part of 5,500 strength of field, but as we also do see there, Aykut Kulata making his way into 17th place there, so gets it done right at the end of the session. Well, Membreno decides to show off a little bit of spin coming out of turn number 3, and we briefly show you the details of our drivers' licenses there, in case you're curious and looking to see who the very best are in terms of their I rating, of which our highest I rated driver here today is your second place starter, Franciszek Liska, who will be starting out on 8.3k rounded to the nearest 100. Looking forward to seeing what he can do as our number 1 driver, but he's going to go battling with Elias Finoli at 5.9 thousand, and well, definitely some very high I ratings here, and also some drivers out of position it would seem, including none other there than what is your 13th place starter on 5.7k, and that is your driver of Elliot Noren there, who's going to be starting a long way down compared to his I rating and has got some hard work to do. But hard work, of course, can always make the dream work. There's no doubt about it. As now everyone gets themselves settled in, and well, very shortly, of course, we will be going green flag racing as Rene Membreno keeps us entertained, keeps the Porsche Cup car out there. And well, this wonderful series, of course, sponsored by none other than the sim racing hardware manufacturer CONSPIT, and we're very grateful for their sponsorship of the series as they've made the way throughout this year. But as everybody now calls themselves on down, well, we might get a parade at the end. Fabian Ming says there's going to be a parade at the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. But the clock strikes 8 minutes. It's time then to head to the grid and see how they all line up for the last ever top split official race for the Porsche 992.1. So as they make the way onto the grid, this is how they'll all line up. Pole position then goes to Elias Finoli for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Max Sim Racing. Brilliant work there from the smiling Swede, ahead of the Polish driver of Franciszek Liska. The difference between the two of them, 3 tenths, and it was a further 3.5 tenths to Luis Felipe Calderon, who starts in 3rd place. In 4th, we have Lucio Tonello, who's been a fan favourite since making his way onto the grid midway through the 2025 Season 4 Top Split broadcast campaign, and he is ahead there of none other than Balti Silva, who starts in 5th, his fellow countryman. In 6th, we have Bernardo Silva Rez, the Portuguese driver just ahead of Carl McGuinness for pole racing, and then we do have, starting in none other than 8th place, Nereni Batista. Behind the Brazilian driver, it's the American there of Nicky Charlia, ahead of Fabian Ming, who rounds off your top 10. Well done to the pole sim racing driver there for just creeping inside the top 10, and I say just creeping in because he's only a 10th ahead of Maxwell Phillips, who makes it to best the rest of 11th. From the number 11 in 11th place, it's then the number 13 of none other than Mango, that being in full there, Alejo Mango, who starts 12th, ahead of then other 13th, Elliot Norem. Behind Noren on the grid, it's then going to be Philippe Schnorr, ahead of Arturo Gomez and Alan McCain. The Simtech driver there looking to go forward from 16th place. We then do have Aykut Kulata, who starts in 17th from Turkey, ahead of Sebastian Racing's Membreno. And then we have Sanjay Suresh, and what is there, James Brett completing your top 20. And behind them on the grid, we then have Hayden Bramley and William Rasmussen, ahead of Joey Latriciano and Alex Noog. And then last but not least on the grid, 25th, it's Vida Benedek. So that's the grid. They all line up. The lights are going on. And for the final time ever, ladies and gentlemen, for the 992.1, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 and lights. And it's lights out, and away they go as Elias Finoli gets a good start. Franciszek Liska, meanwhile, immediately comes off Calderon as they roar the way down towards turn number 1. It's 3 in the rear for 4th place as they make the way in towards the opening corner. Riches or rags will it be? And looks like Balti Silva there makes it Riches. All our drives roar the way through, but a few take the rallycross line. But they're coming out. Oh, goodness me, there's been contact further back. I believe McCain's been caught up in a bit of an instant. But under braking, that's way too hot there. And, well, it's already chaos and carnage in towards turn number 2. But those who survive carry on as Fabian Ming gets collected again. And Ming right now in a frustrating race. Well, it's been a bit of mixed fortunes for those further down. But up the front of the field, meanwhile, your top 5 are running away with things as they make the way up towards the left into right of Brundle into Nelson. Speaking of which, Tonello versus Silva here. 2 wide they enter. Will it be 2 wide they exit? And it will be Tonello who gets ahead, who moves up in a 4th place there. And a brilliant start as he now makes his way in towards Bombhole corner. And let's try and carry that momentum. Fabian Bigby, while still surviving despite some damage on the car. You can see there Cole McGuinness behind him. Those two drivers definitely having a bit of a difficult start. We'll get a replay of that when we can, what exactly happened, as that's a near run wide of Alex Noog, who then brings it back together. But coming through Coram Bend right now, the Red Bull machine, number 8 there of Noog, now holding on to position as Fabian Ming tries to build up a bit of momentum. And Maxwell Phillips, meanwhile, will somehow survive all of that in the kinetics machine and now makes his way towards lap number 2. But after one lap, it is Linus Finoli who leads and is starting to bolt away with Liska in second. And then we have Philippe Calderon in third, almost taking some yard trimmings with him there in towards turn number 2, with Lucio Tonello in fourth, having made a great start, recovered that place back as he locks up, he goes very deep, and Tonello slides along, and that's going to give Silver the opportunity to creep back ahead as it's a spin there for Tonello, gets a little bit too overeager and trying to recover his time, and in the end all he recovers is some grass that he puts onto the tyres. William Rasmussen there will take up one of the places, as will Hayden Bramley, who started in 21st place. He's already up to 10th as he chases down Rasmussen here into Brundle, but as he gets nice and close, we ride aboard here with the 10th place driver literally riding the rear of his rival onto the Anchors Day car. He looks one way then the other, but there's no way through there unless you're too wide on entry, so therefore he's going to be patient here as they now make the way on through the bomb hole and coming out to the right hand and now heading in towards Coram at this point. Well, for Bramley, he was so close at one point that he could reach out and touch the rear of the car, not so anymore because of the concertina effect, but of course a bit of patience here would do him well. We know that Hayden Bramley is a huge fan of the Porsche Cup car. Indeed, he's wanted to be on the grid each and every week for the racing, and right now he would not have been anywhere else other than this race tonight, and we're very happy to have him with us as he makes his way down the start finish straight. But getting very close here, and Rasmussen right now definitely a very similar caliber as Rasmussen looks up the inside Schnorr into turn 1, Rich's corner then, double right apex, Schnorr's elbowed out wide, albeit no contact, it's just the natural lines, and Brownley's up the inside as well. As you can see, Latriciano also looking for the opportunity there to get involved. Can he do so? Yes he can. So it's a 3-for-1 deal there, as in the end Philippe Schnorr is overtaken by 3 drives, all using that inside line, and well, Rasmussen opened up the door and everybody else decided to follow him through there, and I think Philippe Schnorr is going to be looking back at this and thinking right now he's actually made history in these broadcasts by being the first driver to ever have a 3-for-1 pass made on him at a single corner. But as he makes his way into Brundle into Nelson, right now the number 25 driver, the lowest I-rated driver here, but he's doing very well to be fair. Let's give him some credit, given he started 14th, has moved to 11th. He's trying to keep everything together. Carl McGuinness meanwhile side by side here with Fabian Ming. The two teammates are going to go toe-to-toe as they come through bomb hole corner into Coram right now. Nicky Charlier right behind looking on here, and McGuinness does get ahead of his Swiss counterpart as they come into the braking zone for turn number 10. Right now the Scotsman doing everything in his power to try and break away. They don't want to be stepping on each other's toes, but the problem is of course the fact that both drivers are running a bit of damage here, and both drivers have proven to be similar in pace in previous weeks of racing, but right now they're all keeping it together as they make the way up towards the opening corner. Nicky Charlier right now staying very tucked in close and tight behind Ming, and I think right now Fabian Ming is really trying to hold on here, and Charlier is looking to be in the much more comfortable car as Rene Membreno looking behind there and not able to get involved right now, but definitely these drivers now starting to take a sideward glance at each other thinking, is this the fight they're going to be locked into for the remainder of the distance? Speaking of fights, this is the fight for 6th place. We ride on board and look back for the rear of Elliot Noren's car, as that's William Rasmussen up the inside. Another place gain there ahead of Nereni Batista, and the Brazilian driver there being swarmed. There's contact there behind. Who was that making contact with whom, I hear you ask? Well, there's been a car ejected out wide. There's also a car on the grass there. Couldn't quite see who that was. I believe that's a car recovering, and that is Sanjay Suresh who somehow recovered, but I think there's a lot more to the story than meets the eye, as that's almost 3 wide there into Coram Bend at a diagonal, and well, in the end that hasn't quite worked out there for Rene Membreno, who I think wanted to make the move on Charlie Air, but they realised that was going to be tantamount to disaster if he tried to force his nose into Coram Bend. That's not a place you can just dive up the inside, because it is a very tight circumference corner. But as they make the way across the timeline, 5 laps down, still plenty more to go. And everyone right now really giving it everything they can in order to try and end their season on a high and end the career of the 992.1 on a high as well, as we come back to Elliot Noren, the man who we left after all the chaos that happened on the previous lap. And right now he's got William Rasmussen breathing down his neck. And Rasmussen, who started all the way from 22nd. Oh, goodness me. Hopefully that's not a sign of a technical issue with the server to come. And well, if so, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully it's just perhaps the changeover that's happening on the iRacing client at the moment and the suspension of race sessions. Hopefully this broadcast is not stepping away from you either, but we do apologise for that. Hopefully things are going to come back together shortly, but that might just be the transition essentially as we now make our way into patch territory. So definitely is going a bit sideways here with regards to the broadcast. We do apologise for that. This is unexpected, but we will carry on and try to pick up the pieces where we can. As Hayden Bramley, meanwhile, chases after Elliot Noren and tries to put as much pressure on as possible. But I think all these drivers right now might be blinking in and out of existence, and indeed it might be a bit of chaos for all of us involved here. But all these drivers right now, they're keeping it together somehow. And, well, whatever they're seeing compared to what we're seeing, I'd love to know what they're experiencing right now. But we do apologise for that. But things seem to settle down for a brief moment. And hopefully that's the way it's going to go as Bramley's up the inside. And that's going to be for 7th place as it then stops and then rematerialises. But definitely right now, things going the way of Hayden Bramley as he continues to follow William Rasmussen up the running order. Now, whilst all this has been playing out, we take a look back at the race start. Here was some of the chaos, should we say, from the very beginning of the race. We look to the very front, and Elias Finoli having that absolutely brilliant start at the beginning of the race and was able to get the launch away quite comfortably and has made his way up towards turn number 1. Well, what exactly happened after that was the big question. Well, we looked to the blimp camera. Finoli was absolutely fine, and Liska and Philippe Calderon followed him on through as quickly as they could. And what happened further behind was a bit of a scramble as they made their way down in towards the hairpin. This was Ming, as we did have there the car running wide. And Ming found himself right in the midst of it all. A bit of a lock up there. Cars going on around. Ming making contact there with the kinetics machine. And then everybody else came into the scene. Fabian Ming being collected there with some other drivers. They made their way through turns 2 and 3. And it all went a bit wrong at the very start, but somehow able to survive that. We take a look back at the race start. This was from the perspective of Aikut Luata, and as they headed in towards that opening corner, everybody was free wide on entry. Oh, there was a big elbow right at the start of the race. That was Arturo Gomez being sent out wide amongst some other drivers as well. So it all went a bit wrong there, and Gomez unfortunately really come off the worst for it, and a big nightmare start for them. We also did have this happen right at the start. This was for Vida Benedek, as Benedek looked to the move here in the P1 Docks machine in towards turn number 2, and that was the compression free wide and collected there by Fabian Ming's nose. And well, Benedek in the end being turned all the way around, and not a happy end to that part of the race for him as we come back to your live racing. Now, as we do come back, we still seem to be suffering, unfortunately, from some slight issues here. And, well, hopefully that's not a sign of something on our end. But I'll try to follow the race as best as we possibly can here as our drivers carry on. But as they all do, well, right now, Elias Finoli still your leader by 6 tenths over Frances Liska. And Liska trying to follow it as best he possibly can with Luis Felipe Calderon in the pursuit in 3rd place. But this top 3 has gradually broken away as Bauti Silva, meanwhile, running in 4th here. We'll keep an eye on things, but it does seem as though that for Bauti Silva, he's more focusing on the run for 4th at this point onwards, as these drivers all continue to make their way down the back stretch. But in towards the left and the right, we look a little bit further back to Elliot Noren, who's under pressure from William Rasmussen. And I believe Rasmussen was ahead earlier, but he has fallen off the road somewhere. And I believe that's what's pushed him down the order. In fact, Rasmussen did have it off track. We'll get a replay of that when we can, but the elbows are out now between these two. And, well, these two right now definitely get very firm with each other, as Rasmussen does get ahead for a brief moment, and Noren is ejected backwards. And Bernardo Silva Reyes also has come through with him. Noren now falls down to 10th place. And again, we do apologise for what's going on here. We don't seem to have any issues on our end specifically. We're not sure if this is an iRacing issue or not, but we will try and keep you apprised of the timings as we can, ladies and gentlemen. But understandably, this is making it a bit of a challenging send-off for tonight. But as they all head onwards, we do say hello there to Duster, also to Enanor 10, and also to Jed Stemmed Hams. And well, good to have you guys all tuning in right now, even with the changing circumstances we're experiencing. But onwards they come. And, well, what we do see right now is Bernardo Silva Reyes still in position, chasing after Rasmussen, but Noren and Phillips just tucking it behind. As we take a look back at what happened to William Rasmussen. Oh, well, we're not going to be doing so now, because William Rasmussen's got it wrong out of turn number 3, gone spinning on around, and, well, that sent him all the way down to 13th place. That is not normal there. And, well, Rasmussen, in previous broadcasts that we've seen him in, he normally has been one of those drivers who's been right towards the top end. I think the first challenge that he decided to go for, well, he's pushed a little bit too hard there coming out of turn number 3. Bit eager on the throttle pedal, and the throttle pedal's come back to bite him with a touch of grass on that rear right tyre. So Rasmussen falls back to 14th place, and well, it was a bit of woe for him earlier on, as we take a look back at what happened to him to drop him into that position in the first place. So there was a battle between himself and Hayden Bramley. We sort of caught bits of it here as they made the way into Brundle Nelson, and in the end they both had to come in together, it would seem, and we can't really tell you very much more than that. It does seem as though it's been censored by intermittent connectivity, and well, definitely proved to be a bit challenging there, understanding what exactly happened, but Rasmussen was still in the race at that point. But as we make our way back to what's going on here for Elias Finoli, and Finoli right now with Francesc Liska right behind. Well, their gap has opened up a bit more. Now up to a second here between the leaders as Luis Felipe Calderon. He's fallen back a little bit, now 1.2 seconds behind. And these drivers seem to be spaced out little by little as they continue the way on through. It does seem as though, with the fighting that's going on between them, well, it's going to be more about a bit of a pause on the fighting and instead waiting to see what comes up next if anybody makes a mistake. As we then look to Nereni Batista, he's had a bit of a difficult race as well, having lost the best part of 7 places compared to where he started, and will be making his way through Bombhole Corner very shortly. You can see Tano and Sanjay Suresh in front. They're getting a little bit closer to each other. And Sanjay Suresh, at the moment at least, seems to be holding on, and we'll be hoping to be able to use a bit of distance to Rasmussen as well to keep him in the hunt. But I think Rasmussen's got other ideas here to try and pull away as we get towards the halfway point of this race. Albeit, hopefully, it's not a sign of the server falling over here with the way things are going at the moment, at least what we're seeing. But we will try and fit in the gaps as best as we can, ladies and gentlemen. As Suresh right now has Tonello hot on his heels, and in fact, with Suresh running a bit wide there, well, Tonello's going to look up the inside. Is he going to go for the move? The answer is no, but he will put some mental pressure on his rival, as meanwhile Alex Nogue still over the back of Nicky Charlier. Charlie, who was right at the epicenter of all the madness that unfolded on the opening lap at turn number 2. Well, Charlier has been able to survive it, even a slightly bruised and beaten number 19 car. And Nogue, meanwhile, is still there with them. So definitely, it's going to be rather contrasting fortunes between these two drivers. But they're both together now, and they get to present us with some absolutely brilliant racing. Now, a question there from Eleanor 10, which is, are we commentating every top split? No, we have been for this season been commentated on a specified top split. We will be talking a bit more about what's to come in 2026 season 1 at the end of this broadcast, but we are planning to continue covering a weekly strength of field top split into the 2026 Season 1 campaign and also Season 2 as a minimum, if not the whole of 2026. So don't you worry, more details on that at the end of the broadcast and also in the Porsche Cup official Discord in the weeks to come. But we come back to the present right now. And as we do, well, what's still unfolding here is Elliot Noren, Fabio Ming and Carl McGuinness. They're all still together, with Noren keeping one step ahead of the pole sim racing drivers, who are chasing after him as best as possible, as we lose Fabio Ming for a brief moment, but not the rest of the field here. So hopefully that's not the sign of an internet connectivity issue for Ming, or a technical issue in particular. That's the last thing we want there, is to briefly lose a driver and have them reappear, because it can be the sign of something a bit worse. Indeed, it definitely is proving to be a bit of challenging circumstances everywhere we look at the moment. As we look back to Nicky Charlier, meanwhile, who's fighting hard with Nogue, looking up the outside to inside here through Brundle Nelson. It's not going to work out that time, but what we can see is also behind that is Bernardo Silva Reyes, who has been put a lap down due to misfortune early on in the race, plus a black flag as well for good measure, it would seem. And Reyes right now will be very gradually making his way to the pits soon, because if he doesn't serve that black flag within several laps, it'll be a drive-through penalty that is very quickly converted, I do believe, into what will be a disqualification. But into the pits he comes, right on call there, we couldn't have predicted that. And well, meanwhile, we look back up inside the top 10 as this race now definitely starts to settle down a little bit after all the madness of the opening couple of laps. And Noren, Ming and McGuinness are still fighting to get over 9th through to 11th. Now, one driver we haven't really talked about, albeit he's definitely got a lot to talk about because he does stream his onboards of these races, I do believe, is Joey Latriciano, the American driver here right now. Definitely one of the big fan favourites. Oh, my goodness, that's a lot of apex curve, but that's not the way you do Nelson. Oh, no, and we're going to briefly lose what's going on. And in the end, we do see that Noren takes evasive action. And Latriciano, in the end, taking way too much apex curve, yeets the car into the air, as some would say. And was he brought it back down to earth, or Latriciano, in the end, gets it back together, but not without major suspension. suspension damage, and I suspect right now that is going to be a crawl to the pits if he can get it there. If not, that might be a tow, but hopefully he can get it into the pit lane, and therefore he won't have to spend as long getting it repaired. Although the Trecciano's race, which we were going to praise, and I think the commentator's curse has definitely hit the poor man. Well, I do apologise for that, Joey, if you do watch this back later. And, well, for the Trecciano, it's definitely been one of those moments whereby suddenly it's all fallen apart. But can we get an on board of what exactly happened? I think we can, and here's the replay to explain. So this was the Trecciano making his way in towards Brother Winter Nelson, carried a lot of speed. Onto the brakes, turned in a bit too early, and that's what sends him up into the stratosphere and damaged the suspension. So back to your live race will become, and as another driver falls, many will still rise up the running order. And well, right now we do continue to see the leaders. In fact, they're getting to the point where they might be starting to lap some drivers on circuit through not misfortunate circumstances, just because they've caught up to them as the race has gone on. Finoni, Luska, and also Felipe Calderon, they're still separated by 3 seconds in total, but right now it seems as though it's Elias Finoli for Ice Cold Racing powered by Maxim Racing just to control this one. As he comes on down in towards the hairpin. He's definitely right now keeping it all together, but as he roars his way through that right hand in towards the left, well, the thing is, of course, he can lead all these laps, but the final one's the one lap he really needs to lead, because that's the one with the checker flag will be found. No mistakes coming from him at the moment as he's extending that lead even more. In fact, last lap he was 2 tenths quicker. As you'll see from the lap time boards very shortly, it does show you the history, and we have gradually seen when does that gap open up between the two of them. And Liska, well, the average delta has been 2 tenths a lap to Finoli. Finoli has been gaining, and he has set the fastest lap on 11, and that was a 108.477. But as they make the way on around still, we look back to Lucio Tonello and the Argentine all over the back of Rasmussen. And, well, he's going to be looking for a move here, surely, coming down into Brundle. He does think about it and then decides against it. I think recognising the fact that going inside to outside would be very challenging when Rasmussen definitely has a lot of confidence on his brakes. And, well, therefore he tucks back in behind as Elliot Loren is a target just up the road from them. And, well, a bit further up the road, Fabian Ming and Carl McGuinness still there as we look back to Vida Benedek, who started all the way back in 25th place. And right now the number 10 driver here, well, he's definitely made a good recovery of this race since we last caught up with him, and he's all over the back of Sanjay Suresh now, looking for 13th, as we've had somebody get it very wrong moments ago. Was that Rasmussen having another off track? Yes, it was. So Suresh and Benedek are going to go side by side here across the start-finish line. Who's going to be leading this battle? It is going to be Benedek who gets ahead, goes round the outside before Rich's bend, and gets it nicely done. So, out to turn number 1 he comes, down towards turn number 2, and doing a very good job here is Benedek of trying to push towards the top 10, albeit there's still some places to go. We do see it in Aurelia Batista in the very colourful Brazilian colour car ahead of the Red Bull machine of Alex Nogue, and right now Batista 9 has got to hold on a little bit longer here. There's not too many laps remaining in this one. Indeed, it sounds as though 6 laps is a lot after this lap, but do keep in mind it is a short lap here, just shy of a minute in length. Oh, hold up a second, and William Rasmussen's having even more drama going here as he rejoins, but he's going to drop all the way down to 13th. When he dropped to 14th, there will Sanjay Suresh be able to find a way through. Something says yes, maybe he will be able to. Into Koran Bend, well, right now through that sweeping right-hander, Rasmussen definitely having a bit of a nightmare day after what was a very good start to the race. Things are now falling off the proverbial cliff. The wheels on the bus are not going round and round anymore, unfortunately. For William Rasmussen, I think at this point it's now going to be about trying to survive to the very end in a car that does seem to be crabbing, or what we refer to as misaligned suspensions. The wheels, when you try to point them straight, the car actually goes at an angle. Suresh looks up the inside, and well, Sanjay Suresh looks for it into Riches, but he doesn't quite get it done there, as it has to wait his turn as they come down in towards Wilson Hairpin. But behind, we do have Noreni Batista being overtaken here by Nogue. Nogue gets a move up the inside. Big lock up there for Batista. Batista in the end will go deep, and that is going to be the end of that battle for now, as Nicky Charlier is going to be closed up as quickly as they possibly can. Back to the front of the field, there's Finoli, then there's Francesco Liska, and then there's Felipe Calderon. That is the gap between your top 3. It's getting closer to the fight for second. It is the lead. Elias Finoli now leads by 2 seconds as he sets a new fastest lap of the race at 8.463. There's the Rexy Machine of Balti Silva, followed by Alejo Mango. And then we have Hayden Bramley, who is continuing to try and catch up. However, I think Bramley's pace now is starting to hit a bit of a brick wall, because that last lap from Bramley, a 109.15 versus the 108 of the 108.4, the 108.5, and the 108.6 of the top 3. And, well, Bramley has got the pace to catch Mango and Silver if there's enough laps to do so. But right now, he's not going to be getting there quickly enough at this rate or not. He needs to gain about half a second a lap if he wants an opportunity to attach Mango right at the end of the race. And, well, 13, Mango needs to make a mistake somewhere, as it does seem as though our connectivity issues decide to come back once again. But I get the feeling that's something that we are not able to control at the moment, ladies and gents, for what we're being informed from the technical health status. So, therefore, we are keeping a good eye on things where we can, but we'll keep on filling in the gaps where we can as well. As here comes Tonello looking down the back straight, down the Bentley straight he goes. Norien defending to the inside here, and well, Tonello's going to try and go outside to inside. Does he beat it on the brakes? The answer is no, he doesn't. He has to wait again, but definitely wants to try and get this move done sooner rather than later, because he wants to break into the top 10 with Benedek closing up quite quickly behind. But Carl McGuinness and Fabian Ming have dropped these two over the last few laps, and therefore the Pulse Sim Racing drivers are no longer a part of the fight for 10th place. Indeed, they've absconded with 8th and 9th, and now Tonello is just trying to creep on in, but Benedek is all over the back of it. And what he's thinking here is there an opportunity for me to try and take both places? But before we talk about that, here comes Ming and McGuinness together. And we'll turn them side by side into Rich's Bend. And in the end, Ming stays ahead. Then here comes Naren and Tonello. Naren going defence on the inside there in what is the rather yellowy-orange Roxy Mobile. And as they make the way out of the corner, well, Tonello now looking one way then the other. Here comes Benedek looking up the inside. Tonello's got to be careful here because Benedek's going to go for it. And Tonello in the end is blindsided a bit by that. I don't think he expected Benedek to suddenly appear up the inside, but he in the end gives him all the racing room to do so. So, Vida Benedek using the situation to his advantage and makes up a place. But with that, we come back to the Ming versus McGuinness battle. The Pulse Sim Racing pair still together. And well, McGuinness definitely looking to be the quicker of the two now in the late stages. Fabian Ming surviving a little bit on tyre life. Whereas Carl McGuinness, I think he just tried to get the power down in that car. He's definitely weaving from left to right. And well, he's looking very quick indeed. But will he be able to get the power down in the right place to be able to get the job done? That is the thing, that the challenge that awaits him. As they make the way towards the end of another lap. Here comes Benedek looking around the outside of Naren, who went defensive into Murray Bend, intentionally there to feel safe. And in the end, well, Elliot Naren, for everything that Benedek's throwing at this, it's not enough right now to be able to hold him off. There's going to be another 3 laps of this, I suspect. And well, at the moment, Lucio Tonello will ride the back of this and be thinking, right, if they're going to fight this hard, I need to be ready to make a move myself, as Benedek has to look around the outside now into the braking zone. It's not going to work there as the rain goes deep. Benedek sets him up the inside of turn number 3. They swap things around here, and well, now Benedek's going to have the drag race all the way down the Bentley straight here. And as they make the way in towards Brundle to Nelson right now, Benedek's got ahead by a nose, but the problem is he's going to go inside to outside as to get ready to go under the access bridge. 3 wide they come then, in towards Brundle. 3 wide you don't normally do here. There's someone going to survive it. Tonello backs out, and Naren in the end is on the inside, but he goes deep with Benedek. Here comes Tonello looking for the move, but Benedek immediately covers him off there into bottom hole corner, and Elliot Naren holds on. My good lord, that was brilliant racing between them. William Rasmussen is now catched up to the back of them as well. So we've only got a 4-way fight for 10th place here, but Elliot Naren right now is making his Porsche double the width that any Porsche Cup car should be, as Benedek dives on the inside, and in the end, well, that was a lunge and a half, and they've come into blows even more, but that's Naren and Tonello off the road together, and somehow Vida Benedek has survived it all, as that's going to see Elliot Naren into the pit lane for repair work. Benedek has picked up a black flag for instant points, so that's going to be a drive-through penalty. And William Rasmussen is suddenly going to take 10th place off of them all. And all he had to do was get close to them. He didn't need to actually fight them. So Rasmussen right now knows all he's got to do is be the patient player in all of this. But as he tucks in behind Benedek, you can see Sanjay Suresh is catching up. And we've also got Nereni Batista and Nicky Chelier are now starting to get a bit closer to each other as well. But from them, back to the lead of them, because we are on to the final lap of the race, ladies and gentlemen. And as our leader crosses the line, Elias Fanoni right now has a 2.1 second gap over Francesc Liska. And it is the Swede ahead of the Polish, followed by the Colombian of Luis Felipe Calderon as they make the way to the final ever lap, turned by the Porsche 992.1 GT3 Cup car here. At least a top split in official iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT broadcast, or indeed any session. And as all the drivers make the way around right now, well, emotions will be a little bit high, and if drivers haven't made places, they need to get them done soon, because otherwise there'll be no time remaining. Nicky Charlier will know about that as they chase after Nereni Batista. They've got one more lap to go as they fight over 14th place. And Vida Benedett as well still has William Rasmussen close behind, and Benedett has a black flag, so if he stays out on circuit ahead, he will be demoted at the end of the race as we understand it, as Carl McGuinness and Fabio Ming have swapped places, albeit that has happened quite recently, the swap. But from then, we must swap back to the front of the field, because this is a way to put your name into the history books. For Ice Cold Racing, powered by Maxim Racing, Elias Finoli, he's taken multiple podiums this season. He's taken wins, but right now, he takes the most valuable win of them all. He becomes the last ever Porsche 2.1 race winner here in the official series, ahead of Frances Liska, and then Luis Felipe Calderon will complete that podium. That will be immortalised in time, ahead of Balti Silva, who in the end has had a lonely race, but the number 20 car finishes in fourth. He's proud of that, ahead of Alejo Mango and Hayden Bramley, who was right with them at the end. Then it will be Maxwell Phillips, who comes on home from the Netherlands to take 7th place in a very calm and collected race after it got so scrappy at the start. Carl McGuinness will beat Fabio Ming to the line just about there as they cross line together. In fact, they swap back. Ming takes the place off of McGuinness. A great teamwork for the two of them for pole sim racing. Vida Benedett will take home 10th ahead of William Rasmussen, and then it will be Sanjay Suresh, Alex Nogue, and then we'll have Nareni Batista cross line ahead of Nicky Charlier, and that will complete your top 15 with Lucio Tonello having to settle for 16th place at the end in a frustrating conclusion to his race, with Rene Membreno in the end having to settle for 17th as well. Not the race they wanted. And then we will have your last lead lap finishers of Elliot Naren and Alan McCain, and that, ladies and gentlemen, will be the story of the lead lap. Well, even with connectivity issues, it hasn't stopped us from enjoying an absolutely brilliant conclusion of racing here. We've got Finoli and Bramley headed on around, but we've got donuts aplenty going on here for several drivers down by what is the Wilson hairpin. And as they all celebrate, well, this is, of course, a farewell for the Porsche 992.1 GT3 Cup car. It's been with us for some time on the iRacing service, but it will give way to its Mark II sister machine that arrives as the 2026 Season 1 campaign. And well, all these drivers, absolutely brilliant work to them all to turn out here today and give us an absolutely brilliant display. It may have been a little bit challenging at first coming through the opening few corners, but to be fair, they put on a show, and what can we blame them, ladies and gentlemen? They sacrificed iRating and safety rating to do this, and well, right now everyone enjoyed themselves in the donut display. Well, absolutely brilliant there. Indeed, it even brings a tear to my eye. But as they all celebrate, we're going to put the standings away, and we're going to show you those race results subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries, and here they are. So in our send-off race for the Porsche 992.1 Cup car here today at Snetterton in the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT, Elias Finoli, your last ever winner in the ice-cold racing powered by Max Sim Racing GT3 Cup car machine, the 992.1 of course, head of Frances Liska, who came home the runner-up there, holding off the attempts of Luis Felipe Calderon. The Project Latam Racers driver in the end settling for third, and a brilliant effort at that, head of Balti Silva, the Argentine driver ahead of fellow countryman Alejo Mango, and indeed they completed your top 5. They're only 7 tenths apart, and it was a further 6 tenths to Hayden Bramley, who charged hard from the United Kingdom from all the way at the back of the field, but 6th was the best he could settle for. He needed a few more laps. And then we had Maxwell Phillips in 7th place, the Dutchman ahead of Fabio Ming. Ming swapping place with Carl McGuinness right at the end after a back and forth between them all day long for pole sim racing, head of William Rasmussen, who round off your top 10 for Rebellion Esports LMP2. And many will be asking, if it wasn't for that instant midway through, could he have perhaps gone on to take a top 5? Well, we'll always be left guessing that. Sanjay Suresh was best dressed in 11th place there, ahead of Alexi Nogue, with the Spanish driver then being followed up by the Brazilian of Nareni Batista, and Nicky Charlier and Lucio Tonello completed your top 15. It was then in 16th place for Ray Membreno, the Civar Sim Racing driver ahead of Elliot Narem, with Simtek's Alan McCain ahead of Vida Benedett and Philippe Schnorr, who completed your top 20. We should mention that Vida Benedett did finish on the road in 10th place, but has been demoted due to a black flag. That is a time penalty added to the end of the race for not serving what was the drive-through penalty. And, well, from that top 20, with Philippe Schnorr being the first driver to finish a lap down, we also did have what was several retirements in this race, including one for Aikut Kutluata, ahead of Bernardo Arez, Bernardo Silva Reyes as he's 9 in full, and then we did have Arturo Gomez in 23rd ahead of Joey Latrecciano with that unfortunate big shunt to the apex curb of Nelson, seeing the pole racing driver's race ended before it could really get to its crescendo. And then last but not least there, the earliest retirement of the ball, James Brett unfortunately caught up in the madness on the opening few laps, and the priority having to settle for a 25th place finish, but a non-finish as classified. Well, a big congratulations to all of our race finishers, as we still do have some Porsche Cup cars that have decided not to go into the garage. They've still got fuel in the car, and they're going around the circuit backwards now. It's a bit of pandemonium here, but as we do look to the scenic view, well, that concludes all of our racing here at Snetterton, and a huge congratulations, of course, to our top three. Firstly, in third place, Luis Felipe Calderon. In second, Frances Liska. And last but not least, your winner for this race, Elias Finoli, for Ice Cold Racing, powered by Max Sim Racing. But as we look ahead to the future, ladies and gentlemen, and get ready to wrap up, there's of course time for a quick word about our sponsor for this series, and that is none other than CONSPIT. If you are looking to take your sim racing to the next level, then why not consider CONSPIT? As the pro driver's choice of sim racing hardware, CONSPIT offers one of the most comprehensive lines of hardware products to sim racers around the world. Whether you're in the market for wheelbases, steering wheels, pedals, peripherals, or rigs, CONSPIT's extensive experience in the motorsport industry means every one of their products is fine-tuned for success at the highest level. But do not just take our word for it. We're brand ambassadors including 2022 Grand Prix Macau GT Cup champion Luo Kaliu, 2022 Porsche Carrera Cup Asia champion Liu Ye, 2022 Chinese Touring Car Championship champion Rodolfo Avila, and 2023 GT World Challenge Asia GT3 Cup champions Climax Racing. You shall be in pole position for victory when you invest in CONSPIT's hardware. If you'd like to know more, be sure to head to conspit.com today. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that concludes the story of the Porsche 992.1 on the iRacing service, at least for the official races. But remember, this car is immortalised on the service and will always be available if you're willing to host a hosted session or run in a private league. But we look, of course, ahead to 2026 now, and we will catch you in the new year for plenty more racing action, starting with Season 1 and the all-new Porsche 992.2 GT3 Cup car, with its all-new electronics package, refinements, and improved engine power. And well, I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back in the new season in approximately a week and a half's time now. And given the fact we are coming to the very end of the 2025 Season 4 campaign, but we will be back for the continuation of our regular top split strength of field broadcasted races. The exact split and the exact session that is going to be broadcasted is still to be decided. That schedule is being worked out, but if you want to stay up to date with that, you can either subscribe to the channel you're tuning into today. Alternatively, we recommend you head to the iRacing official Porsche Cup Discord and join the community there, and there's a dedicated channel where you can stay up to date with all the latest information with regards to the strength of field race. But it will be presented, we'll carry on the story, and as we make our way into a new Porsche Cup car, we won't forget the old one, but we will now start to build the legacy of the all-new machine. But with that, it saddens me to say, that's all we've got time for on this broadcast. This has been the iRacing Porsche Cup by CONSPIT. It has been the sending off of the 992.1 here at Snetterton. And I have been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX1, or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.